Her very barren chambers.
You masked our bond.
It's been at least 2 years.
She's gonna get some, Lon.
Welcome the break.
This place isn't as safe as it once was.
Okay, that seems like bullshit. Unless it's an actual, like, hidden door and their rooms are next to each other? Seriously?
I'm on a knife's edge here, and that display you forced me to put on has made everything we're trying to do much harder. Don't smile.
Seriously, like, what the fuck was that? And now they're in a hotel somewhere? I guess it's supposed to be a ter'angreal. A ter'angreal that takes you to a fishing hotel? I mean, I'm glad that they have an ability to, like, meet somewhere to bone down, but disappointing still. I can't think of the way that they could have done it that would be possible to, like, keep their relationship absolutely positively secret, which they have to do out of professionalism, not just out of a political, you know, in order to be able to basically act like strangers or pretend to be enemies, in order to make sure nobody knows that they're working to find the dragon, but just also, you know, the Amerlin seat really cannot be in a relationship with any other Aes Sedai. It's too much of a power imbalance and it's not professional. Too much opportunity to show favoritism and stuff, but this transporter transporting you to a very rustic hotel seems like I'm struggling to justify it. And it's like, obviously, I'm not going to spend a ton of time dragging it because. Editing Morgan here. I went on quite a tirade about how I didn't appreciate the picture in Moraine's room creating a portal to a rustic fuckpad because I felt like the reasoning behind it was really wishy-washy and that it wasn't a good look considering the whole general canon of the story. It actually kind of brought the episode down as far as like quality in my eyes. And I'm still in the middle of editing this episode as I'm recording this editing Morgan here filler, but I know that at the end of this reaction, I have quite a long rant about how much I hate this whole bit with this portal that basically transports Moraine, because I just felt like it did not actually have anything supporting it. You know, I felt like it was just narratively very flimsy and really, really disliked it. And I was not paying attention to the X-ray trivia, which I really should because they have so much good and useful information in there. And if I had, I would have seen that it says, there are objects of the One Power created for specific purposes. Some of these objects do very mundane things like play music or create fabric, while others act as doorways to different places, experiences, or spaces. And that right there gives me the canon that I need to be like, okay, they are officially flat out saying that it is a ter'angreal, and while we haven't specifically heard about a ter'angreal like this one, we know that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them where we don't know what the purpose is. Because they say spaces or experiences, I'm wondering if it is supposed to be like Tel'aran'rhiod or something similar to where you go when you go through the rings for your acceptance test or whatever. And the bottom line is there is enough foundation for it at this point that I no longer hate it as much. And I know when I get down to the editing at the end where I kind of go off on it because it really, really bugged me when I was first watching this. I will trim that part out because having gone back and now having read the X-ray bit and seen that they have actual trivia for it behind it, I'm like, okay, there's canon there for it, and we may not have seen this specific ter'angreal in the book, but there's enough canon to support it at this point that I'm just kind of like, okay, I can buy it. So anyway, I just wanted to put that in there because I don't want to be unfair in my reactions, especially because I love this show. I really, really love this show, and sometimes I feel like in the moment I do get a little bit of that book reader purist, and I'm kind of like, no, 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 wait, no. And in this case, especially because Amazon does have this great bonus material that fills in gaps in the way that so many other shows just cannot do, I didn't think to avail myself of it and look and see if it had any accompanying trivia, and it totally did. Anyway, that's hot, okay? No lie.
Listen, you. Yeah, maybe two. You've been gone such a long time. On your knees.
Damn. Okay, that was really hot.
Like your taste in ale hasn't improved. I found the dragon.
Gee, you think you could have told me that beforehand?
The girl from the Two Rivers. Perhaps. It's complicated. From a gleeman, I heard the tale of a many-headed dragon. The last dragon was one man. Why would the wheel split the dragon's soul into many? What if Guitar's vision was wrong? Well, say something. Will. Your spikes retract. You little pufferfish. Damn you can't get away with that every time. I saw it a few months ago. The last few weeks, every night I see the same thing. The Dark One. At the eye of the world. We can destroy him. If we go now, we have the advantage. We know where he is. We don't know which one of them is the dragon. Take them all. We'd be sentencing the other four to certain death.
Wondering if they're gonna have Swan be a dreamer instead, and have Egwene learn from her, which I don't like particularly. I feel like Egwene immersing herself among the Aiel is significant to her character arc, and you really can't take that away. Yeah, I don't know.
Tomorrow when you sentence me, it must be exile. Why? Maiken's ordered me to stay in the tower. Rest. I think I can sleep now. I'm here. Can you ride?
MacCawthon. Was that his name?
Oh, that's stupid.
Same boy you visited at the Light's Blessing yesterday.
Seriously, where is he involved to light her on fire?
Never mention this again. Or I will tell your Red Sisters where he lives. We both know what they'll do to him.
I'm gonna rat you out about your boyfriend.
Even for a human.
It is a failing of our kind, I do admit. But the wheel has presented us with a crisis, and at the same time, perhaps a way to surmount it. But I'll need your help.
Okay. I've changed my mind. I know in the last video I said I wasn't as big a fan of Loyal. I was sad because I went on Twitter the next day and everybody was raving about Loyal, and I felt bad that I didn't care for him as much, but having gone back and watched episode 5 a few times, more and more Loyal is growing on me. And I think maybe part of the problem is that he just wasn't one of my favorite characters. Like, I'm really eager to see more screen time with him, and I really want to see him develop relationships with the other characters. I really like his relationship with Rand in The Great Hunt, and honestly, his relationship with Perrin in Book 4. He's got a lot going for him, so he's a great character in the earlier books. We don't see him much later on. And then, like, when you finally get a point of view from him in Book 11, I love that chapter. That's one of my favorite chapters that Robert Jordan writes. So, I'm looking forward to more Loyal. I think I was hasty in my judgment of him, and so excited. Uh-oh, back in the hall. That's no good. Here's more rain.
Welcome to the Hall of the Tower. The hour will seat itself.
Foreshadowing.
Isn't that confusing? To have the woman in the throne named the same thing.
I thought you were dead. So did the trollop that took me.
What are you doing here?
There's a lot to catch up on, I know. But the Amelin's expecting us.
Let her wait.
Swan Sanche waits for only one woman, and it's not you.
They must have had some good sex last night. Damn.
Welcome to the White Tower. The two of you have been called to greatness. The fate of all of us rests on you now. On the decisions you make in the coming days.
So what do we need to do?
Just make sure they're there.
Because the Aes Sedai have to show expression on their faces, since, you know, it's acting and you don't get inner narrative if you're in one of their heads, or interpretation of what they're thinking based upon, you know, game of houses and, you know, the biases of whoever's head you do happen to be in. I've really appreciated just the facial acting of Rosamund Pike, showing, you know, the courage, the determination, and the overall just anxiety and almost sense of being overwhelmed that Moraine has felt. And then as far as Sophie's swan, it's like the flavor of her swan is different in a lot of ways, but I think that comes very much from my interpretation of the character. She has more finesse here and is much less of a bully, which I like, because I feel like writing these women of power, particularly Swan and Nynaeve, as having their determination and their unwillingness to put up with bullshit coming across as bullying is a failing that RJ does them to a certain extent, because there are other more subtle ways to be strong and determined women. And so the character of Swan, while I don't feel like Sophie feels exactly like the Swan of the books, just like I don't feel like Daniel feels exactly like the Lan of the books, I like Daniel better because I care about him in a way that's harder to care about the Lan of the books. And so the same with Sophie. It's just kind of like I find her a sympathetic character right away, whereas with Swan Sanche, it's hard to feel much sympathy for her until the coup happens. At least for me personally, because she is too iron fisted and it's too hard to see her side. I really like the hall. It's beautiful.
On your feet, Moraine Sedai.
They put like a neutral stone in her ring. Megan looks worried. Lyanna looks fierce. Looks like she discussed the judgment before with Lyanna, and Lyanna looks like she thinks that it's unfair, but she's not going to argue with Swan. She looks like she feels really bad about it. I feel like Jennifer Chion Garcia is doing a great job in her roles as Lyanna, because Lyanna's always a background character, and she has a great role in the books, but just the things that she has to do to support the Amerlin in her role, where it's just, yeah, banging the staff, banging it to make people shut the fuck up, and even just these little bits of like facial acting where you feel like she might not necessarily agree with Swan's choices, but she has to agree out of a sense of duty and purpose because she just supports Swan. Also, really sad that Karena's chair is still empty. I'm guessing the Greens will elect another sitter at some point, but it's too soon.
For your disobedience and intractability, you are exiled from this town.
Oh, Megan looks...
Swear your oath, Moraine Sedai. Daughter of the river.
Could you not make it sound so romantic?
And darkness consumed my soul.
Okay, that was like kind of private whispers. I like how red her ears get, the emotion.
Now turn and face your sisters.
Oh, Megan looks super upset. And Maureen's like, I'm free!
Feels good to see. At least I wasn't stupid enough to steal an evil dagger.
Fair.
There will be time for every story as we travel.
They don't want stories, they just want hugs, Maureen.
We've all heard of the ways and stories, but none of us know what they are. Ancient pathways, out of time and space.
It's the fastest road to the Eye of the World.
What's there? At the Eye?
The Dark One's prison.
What about whoever's not the dragon? What happens to them?
You're all fucked.
We cannot know for certain until that moment comes.
That's not alarming.
Is it too late to change my mind?
Light the torches.
They make it look like the Deep Roads in Dragon Age. That's cool. Dragon Age borrows a fuck ton from the Wheel of Time, so might as well return the favor. As far as making the Dark One's prison at the Eye of the World instead of Shale Ghul, I'm fine with that, because frankly, they can completely change the end of the first book, because it doesn't make any sense. And if you've never listened to my podcast, you should listen to episode 8. I did a really hard think and breakdown of what actually is going on at the Eye of the World. I feel like I did a pretty good job, because the problem with RJ's unreliable narrator is that Rand doesn't understand what's going on at the Eye of the World, and so it's hard for us to understand what's going on, and that's why the end of the first book is really, really confusing. And so scrapping that whole thing, or at least most of it, I'm assuming Rand will have to fight a Forsaken, but yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that that works just fine.
What are you doing?
For realsies? Okay. Overall, yeah, I definitely thought that was an amazing episode. I don't know that I agree with Brandon Sanderson that it was the best episode. I still think that episode 4 was probably better, but I really, really liked it. I'm excited to go back and watch it again. I loved being able to see Moraine more as a person, see her relationship with Swan. So, her having this established relationship with Swan Sanche, I mean, it's already kind of tragic because, like, I can't imagine. I am way too selfish to ever be responsible for trying to deal with the kinds of things that these people deal with. I am not so duty bound. I could never bear to be away from my wife like that. I couldn't. So the emotional fortitude of people who can manage to do that is impressive, because yeah, I wouldn't have it in me. That scene with them together was beautiful. They had just beautiful scenes together, and I feel like Swan and Moraine's relationship was a huge focus of this episode, as well as just power politics. I loved Moraine finally just, it's like Moraine never loses her temper, and she never gives in to, other people's bullshit. So the fact that she finally just lost her shit and was like, I'm gonna tell your Red Sisters that you have a guy you meet up with and fuck on the side, even though that's a huge no-no, because you're all supposed to hate men, so, how about you shut the fuck up? And Leandrin immediately shut up, because, like, that was a real threat. I appreciated that. There was so much nuance. You had so much more about the character of Moraine in this episode. And yeah, a lot of dedication to her and Swan's relationship. Getting to know Swan. Little bit about Egwene's character there. I thought there was great development of her character, both in just her sense of duty, like, what do we do? Her sense of purpose, like, she's, the third one in the doorway, asking Swan, what do we have to do to fight this battle? And also just her assumption that she's the most powerful channeler, which I don't think is unreasonable, in the sense of she had no idea if Nynaeve could channel. And so hearing that Swan was like, oh, there's this really special person, and immediately swelling up, and then looking surprised, and maybe a little bit disappointed, but then Swan points out Egwene's like courage and initiative and intelligence, which honestly, I mean, having raw strength is great, but in the end, Egwene's talents and Egwene's natural abilities, as far as what Moraine tells her in episode 2, that it's your mind that really is your true weapon. That's one of the reasons why Egwene as a character ends up progressing so much further, so much faster than Nynaeve, because Nynaeve makes decisions based upon how she feels so often, whereas Egwene is much more interested in making decisions based upon how she thinks and using logic and reason. So I totally get her in the moment, like being like, when she realizes that actually no, Swan wasn't talking about her. It's Nynaeve that's like the most powerful person in 1,000 years. And I get that, yeah, it totally makes sense that she assumed that she was talking about her because she had no idea that Nynaeve could channel. But then Swan turning to her and being like, actually, you have these personality traits, and personality traits are things that you work toward, whereas just having a raw ability, that's a great thing, but it's not the most important thing. Anyway, I'm sure this video is going to be super, super long because I had a lot to say. So thank you for coming to the YouTube version of Podcast of the Dragon for this reaction video to episode 6 of The Wheel of Time, The Flame of Tar Valon. I hope you're all having good holiday season. As you see, I'm wearing my Christmas colors. Everybody take it easy, be well, have a good one.